and welcome. We are back for week 6 of season 4 of the WTRL. Anna, after last week's kind of hellish course around Richmond, I feel like a pedal along the Champs-Elysees is just a little bit of salve for everybody's legs, but it could still be pretty tough out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think last week we coined the words vomoticon or vomiticon, but I think this
Yes.
week it will all be about the champagne. There's a lot of messages about people popping the champagne, having fun on this course. So I think it's going to be a bit of a blast. There's not too many hills to speak of, some cool power ups, Steamroller, again, the controversial one. I can get more into depth on that later in the show. But yeah, I think this one's going to be pretty fun. I think we could pop open the champagne.
Well, we can definitely get into what's filling your whiteboard later on because I know you've been very busy. Anna, let's take a quick look at the course. The A's have 6 laps, the A's and B's, and then the C's and D's are doing 4 laps around there this evening. There is a sprint. Let's not say that it's pancake flat, Anna, but probably the sprint and the cobbles are more of the problem.
Yeah, there's a couple of little decisive hills. So there's the climb, you can just see they're leading into the green sprint. So the Tessie sprint, that's pretty tricky actually, because then you come around the corner and then drift down as well. So if you don't get on the back of the pack, you'll be lost on that little downhill. And then there's a little kick that goes up to around 6% out of the tunnel at the bottom end of the course. That would be a perfect place for an early launch of an attack in the last lap. So watch out for those as well. If you've got the steamroller, you'll probably drop that right there and get a little bit of an attack at that part of the course. And we'll have a look at our standings here as well, see where we're at leading into one of the final races.
Yeah, we'll jump down to those when the riders get out on course. A couple more questions, Anna. The sprint, it's a pretty short one. It's only about 150 metres, so that's about 10 or 15 odd seconds. I have a feeling that that could spell danger because people could go pretty deep thinking that it's pretty short, but then it's a pretty good opportunity for a counter-attack.
I think it's probably one of the best courses for a counterattack because the sprint ends only halfway up the climb. So if you've, yeah, like you've said, tanked yourself too much across the banner and then someone counterattacks up the hill, you'll be gone burger right off the back.
All right, well, we will head down to the pictures. The ladies are out on course now. They're about to head into the tunnel. So again, it's a 6.6 kilometre lap. They will be going around it 6 times because we're looking at the B women right now. There was a 3.2k lead in from the Pens. I mean, at the Tour de France, they get 150 odd kilometres to lead in. Only 3.2 tonight, so not quite as brutal. More time for champagne, I would say, Anna. So this is a part of the course where we're imagining that they're going to be pretty relaxed, but starting to think about the points on offer. It is the 4th points race of this season so far. The things that we have to consider is it's not only the first across the line and the subsequent places that get points, but there's also fastest through segment on offer. And so far that has been largely swept up in that first or second sprint. So here are the standings. Anna, for the Bs, we've got TBR Smile on leading the way there, but only 1 point ahead of the AHDRL Bam Babes, and then again only 1 point back to Zed's Sunreal. So pretty tight at the top of the table. The Bombshells sitting in 4th, the Fiery Kittens sitting in 5th. We race for cake. They're my kind of girls. They race in 6th, and Phenomenal. They're sitting in 7th.
And
So
looking at the
let's
C's as well, that should pop up on screen. We've got TBR Smile on, leading that out. The AHDRL Crazy Cakes in 2nd, Rave C Oz in 3rd, the AHDRL Cruzettes in 4th, the Spin Mafia in 5th, even. So that's a nice little internal battle with the AHDRL team. Herd of Corellas in 6th, TZP Lacklax in 7th, the Degenerates in 8th, CMA Queen Bees in 9th, and the TBR Party Bus rounding out in 10th.
Oh, I like the sound of the party bus too. All right, let's take a look at the D. We've got Rave D Oz leading the way there. They're a couple of points clear of the AHDRL Diamonds. The Daiquiris, again, I like them as well. There's a few teams I could join here. They're sitting in 3rd. The Herd of Bilbies in 4th. CMA Girl Power They're sitting in fifth. I think Carla Joy might be in there. Carla was on our bunch ride this morning and was in very good spirits, but had had a week off the bike and was a little bit terrified about what her legs may feel like out on course tonight. So we have to remember that we can delve into Zwift Power, Anna, and find all of these wonderful numbers and see what the personal bests are for each of our riders. But we have to remember that they've also got, real lives to live, and often they've been holidaying or they've had a little bit of time off the bike. So that can be used really only as a guide.
Yeah, and I mean, like I was saying pre-show, Katie, also just I've been getting all the sicknesses from my kids coming back after school holidays and joined one of the AHDRL group rides, which was a 2 watt per kg ride, and I got blown out the back after about 2 kilometers. And I was saying the sweeper, in a lovely gesture, wanted to come and pick me up, but I figured I was riding less than a watt per kg, so I thought I'd just mosey on at the back for a while. But great to see some of the AHDRL ladies out there riding, and cool to join in on their group ride.
Well, and great that you're still on the bike, Anna. I hope that you feel better. You do have a little bit of a Tina Turner husky voice. Do New Zealanders know who Tina Turner is?
Yes, I think Tina Turner is well known. But I feel like I could sing
Australians only know her.
her.
Aussies only know her because she sang the theme song for our NRL, like our Australian rugby league, for a little while, and so back in the 90s, and so every Australian knows Tina Turner for that.
Nice. We are approaching actually the first sprint. You can just see the little hill coming up in front of them with the beautiful Arc de Triomphe in the background. And the sprint's about halfway up this climb. They will have got a power up over that start-finish banner that we just saw them go through. Seeing a few drafting power-ups being dropped. They do have the drafting power-up, the aero power-up, and that steamroller. I will get into the steamroller after the sprint because I'm not sure it's going to have the same impact we saw initially. We're just seeing one being dropped there at the back of the pack. We'll see, we've got a rider going off the front. This is Willemine, who had a great race last week. That sprint banner just there in the orange. She's going off pretty early. Could be a lead out for one of the other Z-Sun riders. We see Margot there. She has changed her name to Margot instead of M, so better for us
M. Dot.
The commentary
I
team.
liked M. Dot, but yes.
And there we go, those steamrollers dropping, but look at that. I do not think they're as powerful as they have been. We're seeing them move ahead, but nowhere near as much as we saw the last time they were in a race. This is Simone from the Bombshells doing very well here. Another one opening up, Lucy from, looks like TBR Smile, and I do think, great job, Lucy. She's taken a massive lead off the front, but some huge numbers there as well, going in with, I think, what will probably be a fastest time segment, although Margot, Z-Sun, right on her teammates' heels. So that looks like it's been taken up by Lucy, Liana from Z-Sun in second, and Margot from Z-Sun in third.
Well, this is almost a carbon copy of last week in Richmond, Anna, if you recall that Lucy did the same the first time up Libby Hill, or perhaps 23rd Street. She flew up there, got the fastest through segment. It bit her a little bit and she struggled a bit after that, but it earned her an enormous amount of points. And it seems to me that TBR might be employing similar tactics today. It seemed to work well for them last week. And poor Lucy, she seems to cop it every time. She seems to be the one that's sent out to do almost that death sprint early on. But hopefully she can grab a wheel as they come back through here and just jump on the back and recover for those next ones.
For sure. And I think I will take the time now to get into the weeds a little bit on the steamroller and rolling resistance. So I did a little bit of analysis because I know it was a controversial power-up. I was interested to see whether it had the same impact tonight. So first we're going to go into a bit of an equation. So just stay with me. We've got the coefficient of rolling resistance. That takes into account as well the mass of the rider and the bike, some gravity, and the velocity of the bike. So velocity of the bike, you're looking at the Tron versus like an S-Works with some deep dish wheels. But the important thing is, in Zwift, I actually got a hold of the algorithms of what it looks like for road wheels and the coefficient rolling resistance. So stay with me, Katie. You still there?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. I've just had some caffeine. I'm ready to go. Talk me through it.
Okay. So On pavement, we're looking at about 0.004. So the lower the number, the better. That means that you're a bit more fluid on that road surface. Brick, 0.0055. So that's where you're looking at the probably some of the maybe some of the Richmond course, maybe some of the Crit City. Wood, a couple of bridges. Cobbles, what we're on in this racing, 0.0065. So not too far up from pavement. Dirt, which is what we saw last week, 0.025. So way more resistance on dirt. Then you take into account the fact that that dirt section was uphill, so that's going to affect the velocity. Huge impact of that steamroller evening that out and making it like pavement. In this race, cobbles, not much of an impact. And I think that's what we saw there leading into that sprint. People may get caught unawares. It just won't be as powerful.
That is actually far more interesting than I would have given you credit beforehand, Hannah. Well delivered. I've actually jotted that down in a red pen so that my brain can make a little bit more sense of that later. But I would have thought definitely that cobbles offered more resistance than dirt. And it's quite interesting to know that that is certainly not the case. I think that'll change the way I approach cobbles in the Zwift world, because I've always felt that mental load that they were equally as difficult as those dirt sections. So that's, although in saying that, Anna, I did do the Tour of Watopia through the jungle a couple of weeks ago, and that was, 29 odd kilometres of rather hell with all that dirt. It was much harder than I expected it to be. So perhaps our high-level Zwifters will have come to this conclusion on their own. But, I guess that's the other thing. You use whatever power-up is available to you, whichever one that you've managed to pick up, and you just have to figure out the best way to use it based on the cards that you're dealt, because I know that you would often wish for another one. But yeah, maybe the steamroller is a bit of a sneaky one. You have to learn how to use it possibly on this kind of course.
Yeah, and I think actually one of the best places to use it, as we see these groups coming together, I think one of the best places is when you pick it up at that sprint banner, is to use it if you've been dropped. So to use it as a bit of a bridge as opposed to an attack. Because as well, people are more attuned to that steamroller power up, and when they see that purple little dot above people's heads, they'll go, oh, okay, they've dropped the steamroller, let's go. Kind of like how people see an arrow before a sprint. So I think in the course that we're watching now, I think it's best if you've been dropped to use it as a bit of a catch-up tool. But we saw on that downhill, the smaller pack caught the larger group. So that downhill segment, if you can be not too far off, maybe 4 seconds max, you'll probably be able to catch back up on that downhill.
Yeah, it's a bit of a course in disguise, I think. You could look at it and think it's not too bad, but it is actually pretty difficult. So I've just seen a message come through on social media, Anna, that Margot, our M. Dot, who's put her name there, is actually in Wollongong this evening because she's doing her Masters of Physiotherapy. So that's just south of Sydney. And
wow.
In order to get it done, she's borrowing a trainer off somebody that she just kind of randomly found in order to make it happen. So big shout out to her. She's a runner. She's a very good runner, and is now just getting into cycling, having a big impact. And that kind of tenacity shows me that she's someone we may see quite a lot of in the future. So big shout out to Margot, and good on you for borrowing that trainer, and good on the anonymous person for lending the trainer, I might add. So that's a pretty cool way to get out there and get racing. She must be pretty motivated, so let's see what she can do tonight.
Oh, you don't want to miss a Zwift race. I know I take my a little trainer off to my when I go on holiday, and make sure that I've got my phone set up to some kind of data and run Zwift off that. Hard to race on your phone though. It's very small, and the little avatars just look like little ants. Hard to see if there's an attack going up the road. But yeah, if you're addicted to Zwift, like most of us are, then you'll do anything to get on that bike and represent your team. So go,
we are in good company.
Story.
I had the unthinkable happen the other day, Anna. I prepped myself, did a sprint PB in a bunch ride, and then I had a data drop out and I lost all of it. The only thing
Oh,
that came through was, the kilometers and time, but nothing else. It was quite devastating. I don't think I wasn't even prepared for how devastated I'd feel for that to happen. I think that suggests I've probably taken the seriousness of my Zwifting up a level.
oh, that's fantastic. I love hearing that. Oh, that's really good. I've actually only had one
Yeah,
technical dropout
watch out.
myself. So, yeah, not
Yes.
too bad on my side of things, but we did just see them come out of the tunnel. There weren't any big attacks. This is the kind of course, though, where you can really practice some team strategies and tactics because you're going around, these guys going around 6 times. So there's a lot of chance to sort of maybe try a lead out, um, try a little solo breakaway. We're seeing a lot of power ups being dropped here, and that steamroller again heading off the front. They must be coming up very soon to that start finish banner. I don't think they're near the sprint starting yet. They are just coming up to that start finish banner. And people are ditching the steamroller, which we would not have seen in the race that had it last time around Watopia. So, yeah, I just don't think as effective. I think everyone is wanting that aero because what I'm seeing ditched there was steamrollers and trucks. So people obviously want the aeros.
Yeah, that is interesting. The Aero is a really good one. I mean, it's pretty versatile. And also, I think the truck is a really good one if used properly. So you get the truck for 30 seconds. You can really make that count. I was playing around in game with it the other day with trying to almost get drop to the back. And this is something for fastest through segment where you could almost drop off the back a tiny bit, drop the drafting power up, the van, and as you drop it, then accelerate toward the back of the pack. So you're accelerating as though you have that draft, but you've also got the wheels to chase in front of you. And when it runs out, you then catch onto the draft of the group and often kind of get slingshot past it. So that can be a really cool
Oh,
way to do it. It's actually hard though if you're going for first over the line because that can be a bit unpredictable. But if you're going for fastest through segment, there's a sneaky tip for people to give that a go because people also don't really notice what you're doing unless they're really paying attention or they have the view that we're currently looking at now. But Anna, I think it's interesting the view people race with, like which camera they choose um, when they're racing. So, and the men are just getting out on course, so they're on the lower right, and we're covering the C men this evening. So, of course, throughout this season, we've tried to go across a lot of the community grades and give them all the coverage they deserve. It doesn't matter what grade you're in; everybody's working and racing equally as hard. So, a bit of an attack here. Anna Zed's son, they've got a fair bit of intention here.
look at that, Liana, and then Margot. She's obviously not being held back by that borrowed trainer. She is out of the saddle and pushing some huge numbers. A 1-2 attack there from the team. And even Willamine might have come in there third, just over one of the TBR Smile On ladies. So that's could be a 1-2-3 from Zed's son. They're playing their cards very well on that sprint. And look at them. Just look at those watts. They're not slowing down. So usually after a sprint like that, you can see people drop well down to sort of the just between 1 and 2 watts a kg. You can see more up around that 2.5 to 3. So they're not dialing it back too much. They just know the danger of that last bit of the hill and getting dropped. But it looks like the pack has thinned out again. So people are just really dropping each time around they do that sprint. But if we have a look at that camera angle just with them behind, they're about that 3 seconds back. So I think they'll be safe. They'll catch up on that downhill. But if you're going to play some team tactics, one good thing you could do is have drop the steamroller now going down the hill and use the steamroller as a sort of team tactic to just push it on the downhill. Not sure if that would work, but could be something to try. I mean, you may as well try everything. You got 6 shots, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that there is definitely a little bit of room for, trying out different tactics. And this happened quite a lot last season, actually, when they were coming into the back end of the season and teams were starting to feel a little bit more comfortable with their position and leading into the playoff kind of time. And they started trying some different tactics, and I think that that's a pattern that we're seeing emerge. The first couple of weeks are fairly civilized and fairly textbook and straightforward, and then you get into this place and they get a little bit more creative. So we'll head down to the men. They've just left the tunnel. They are out for the first lap. So we'll go down to, we're watching the C men this evening. We also need to take the opportunity, Anna, to check out the standings for the fellas. So let's take a look at that. I'll hand that over to you, Anna, for the A's.
Oh, the A's. I do like to see Deepak Elite there in the front. I did interview them the other week for the World of Zwift show. Great bunch of guys. Aero in second place. Relentless Anarchy doing well, sticking around in third. Evo Savages in fourth. Eat Dirt Aces in fifth. Team ZWC Blast sixth. KRTA Suck My Kiss in the seventh. Gosh, that one always freaks me out. Cryogen.
You have to be very careful saying that.
And 8th, Smooth Ads, Sun in 9th, and Eat Dirt Aces 2 and 10th. Made it.
All right, we got there without having any beeping happening in the background. Nathan, thank you for having your finger on the button just in case. All right, let's take a look at the Bs. We've got the Blowflies leading the way there. They're 1 point ahead of the Dirty Sprockets. WMZBs sitting in third on 80 points, so quite a differential between first and second there, and then third and fourth bunched together. The Eat Dirt Reynolds in fourth. The Big Ring 52th in fifth, TV Gungnir in sixth, Aero Press Coffee in seventh, the WTRL Mercenaries in eighth, the Dirty Sprockets Kaithra in ninth, and the Z Sundries in 10th. I feel like they must be accountants. Number 10 to have a name like that. We're getting creative. What season? What's the next season going to bring? Anna, I'll hand over to you for the Cs.
And this is actually the group we're watching right now on screen. So the AHDR Cruisers very close behind Dirt and Ernie, so keep an eye for that battle. Herd of Aussie Ants in third, AHDR Commodores in fourth, WMZ Chasers in fifth, Cryogen Altides in sixth. Oh, we've got a third and fourth battle too to keep an eye on, the Herd team and AHDR, so keep an eye on that. Evo Flux in 7th, TZP Charlie in 8th, Eat Dirty Calories in 9th, like that one, and TBR 46 Tooth in 10th.
What counts as a dirty calorie, I wonder? Probably anything involving cake. All right, let's take a look at the Ds. The AHDR Drafters on 100 points, perfect score from them. Zero Dark Dirty in second, the Dodgers in third, Herd of Nimble Numbats in fourth, Delta in fifth, the Dirty Deeds in sixth. I'm wrapping up quickly, Anna, because the Cs are heading into this first sprint now. AHDR Keat has taken a bit of a flyer here. He's got a solid lead, but he's also got some teammates back in the pack looking after him. A bit of an uphill slog up here. But is he going for fastest through segment, first over the line, or maybe both?
Do you know what it looks like they're doing? If that's his teammate behind him, I think his teammate is playing the sticky draft tactic. He's going just fast enough that people are stuck on his wheel, and they looks like someone did just pass him, but it's a great tactic up to the sprint because there's a slight climb and people do get stuck on your wheel unless they drop sort of a special power up. But I think he did that for a good portion of the climb, and it seemed to work because they have not been able to gather too much pace on him, although it looks like he might get past just on the line, unfortunately, with Mardoza from Dirt. It's a close battle at the top two, so those are valuable points. Looks like Sullivan from Dirt may have come in second. So very, very good work there. And another Dirt rider with MC. That would be a perfect little breakaway if they can work together there. But amazing. I thought AHDR played some great tactics there, but it looks like Dirt just had that firepower right at the end.
Well, it's a long way to go in a breakaway, but having said that, we said that in Richmond, and each lap it just got thinner and thinner on the ground. In the bunch, certainly no real bunch to be seen. So it's a tried and tested tactic, but with the cobbles, it just isn't quite as easy. There is, as you explained with your whiteboard explanation, there is a bit more of a rolling resistance along there. So you do have to put a few more watts out to keep that speed up, which also means that when the road does turn down, you don't accelerate quite as quickly and get that momentum as well. So they'll want to form a nice group here, and if they've got any tired legs from that sprint, make sure they can get a bit of recovery. Getting a good wheel and getting into that draft is definitely the best way to do that.
I mean, one other tactic I wonder is just have the group catch up on this downhill, because they're more than likely going to catch up just because of the momentum and, you know, group dynamics in Zwift. But what you could do potentially is if that group catches up after the downhill, so more on the flat portion before you head into the tunnel, could you just perform a little attack as soon as they've got back on? So recover on the downhill, then hit the tunnel, and then boom, attack as soon as people think they're in safety. I always think that's a really brutal thing you see in real life racing, is someone's just done all this work to bridge the gap, and then as soon as they get on that wheel and think they're going to be able to relax, that person attacks and they're kind of just totally blown apart. You know, I wonder if that is something you could try on this course as well. I do think it lends itself to it after this sort of long downhill section.
Yeah, I think that's a brilliant tactic, actually. I mean, if anything, it just takes a bit of mental fortitude, because you don't generally get the best result from an attack unless you're hurting a little bit already. Because when everybody's rolling along, anybody can attack, but they're not the ones that stick quite as much as when everybody's hurting and you do get that moment of hesitation. And when you do get that group rejoining, as you said, Anna, that is the moment where they hesitate. I mean, we've all done it, right? We've gotten back on that wheel and literally sat up and taken a very deep, big breath, you know, knowing and counting on a little bit of recovery. So we're back to the women now, because they're about to head into another sprint. We can see them on the big screen there, Anna, getting into it. And it is Zed's son who seem motivated now. We're watching Willemijn de Roo. She's been a pretty strong performer the last couple of weeks. In fact, the last couple of seasons, really. She keeps popping up. So she's leading the pace at the moment, up over 4 watts per kg. So they're certainly moving along at this point, even if their speed doesn't necessarily reflect the effort that is going in.
Yeah, it'll be interesting kind of coming into the sprint here, how tired people are getting. This is definitely a select bunch now. Looks like about potentially 25 riders. So they have pushed some riders off the back. A lot of steamrollers being pushed here. People are going to like seeing this, I think. I think they're going to like the fact that you can drop a steamroller and not have it as a total game changer. Because you can see, even though they're being pushed off the front, those ones behind them are able to sort of stay on their wheel. We do have Willemijn here with Lena from Zedsun. So Zedsun, again, looks almost like the same three, with Liana pushing off the front, then Margot coming in behind, and then Willemijn coming in third, hitting the sprint now. I mean, they're just miles ahead. Who's behind them? A couple of TBR riders. But yeah, Zedsun has definitely come out to party on the Champs-Élysées. Lap number 3. That's a great graphic, actually, to see where we're at, because sometimes you get a bit confused on these very short sort of, not crit style courses, but sort of lapped sprint courses. But lap number 3, we're now, and wow, that's a huge domination by Zedsun.
Yeah, and it's going fast, isn't it? We're kind of getting used to the longer races that are happening this season. We've had a few longer ones, which have certainly tested some legs, but less than 30K tonight. So I feel like that might feel like a little bit of a holiday for some of them compared to what last year had to offer, but also very intense because there's certainly nobody that's intimidated by it doesn't appear anyway, Anna, that there's anybody too intimidated by the distance or the course today. So they're not starting with any hesitation at all. Pretty good tactic by Zedsun. Again, we've come to kind of accept almost placidly that fastest through segment is going to happen in the first lap. But it doesn't mean it has to, and we can really throw, turn everything on its head to see some different tactics playing out. And Zedsun certainly put a good effort in there to give that a crack. TBR have 3 riders kind of patrolling the front, if you will, and another sitting in a little bit further back with Tess Waterhouse just sitting toward the rear there. So we saw a fair balance of numbers last week, Anna. It looks to me like this week we've got between the Bombshells, the Bam Babes, and also Zed's Son, of course. We've got a bit of a balance here, so no numerical advantage in particular. So unless it thins out a little bit, then that won't be something that'll play a big card.
Yeah, I do just want to touch on the Smile On team. I always get my weekly message from them about all their nicknames. We've got Style Queen Sarah out there, so that looks like a newer member of the
Ooh,
team. Comet Class
that's for you.
Caroline.
That's just for you, Anna. Oh, Queen.
Dance Move Dawn. Loves to Go Long Linda, who did everything on the weekend. So, wow, that she's out here.
Jeepers.
Know My Limits Lucy and Captain Tow Truck Test with their DS being Kick-Ass Kimberly. Now, they could not be going for these sprints because apparently they've been hitting the bars and restaurants along the Champs-Elysees all evening. So it could just be that their avatars are wobbling around the road a little bit as opposed to, keeping the mind on the task and going for those sprints. So maybe here for a bit more of a party than a points grab.
Oh, look, can you blame them? It's Paris. And we've been forbidden from going overseas for so long now, Anna, that I think everybody's dreaming a little bit about what a party on the Champs-Elysees might actually look like. So they're coming up to the next start-finish line and go through that. We'll head down to the men now as the women loop around for another lap on course. So less than an hour expected tonight. So we're just entering lap 2 for the fellas here. They've also got 6 laps out, so they're heading on to race 2. But again, it's less than 30k for them, or just over 30k. Sorry for them, but
whose name I'm seeing popping up on screen is Gigante. Looks like Sarah Gigante's father is out on course, if I'm not mistaken. So great to see him out there. We are in the C category, and I think that is the category he's racing in. So great to see Sarah Gigante's father out there. So maybe we can get eyes on him at some point and see what he's wearing and how he's going. But he's obviously made the front pack. So like father, like daughter, I guess.
Yes, and he used to have an actual name, but he kind of lost that with Sarah's amazing results, and he shall now be known as Sarah Gigante's father, or Papa Gigante, we can call him. And of course, another shout out to Sarah, because we know she's rehabbing from some pretty tough injuries. So sending all our best to you, Sarah, for a full recovery. And, perhaps Papa Gigante is now Zwifting to try and keep up. Look at this. He must be listening. He's getting motivated by our shout-outs. Oh, out of the seat,
opening
Papa.
Up.
Let's go. This is actually, he might make it across here
good.
to Keat. He's moving along here. This is a pretty good move. He's opened up a gap immediately of a second that's growing to 2 a couple of wheels back. If he can keep this going through the finish line, it will cause a whole lot of trouble.
Oh, for sure. Look at who's chasing him. Yates. Now, do the Yates brothers have any relations in Australia? That would be amazing. Gigante and then Yates chasing. I mean, this is fantastic. This is all the celebrities, families out on here in the Category C racing tonight. Amazing to see. I mean, Yates, favourite for the Giro that's currently on. And look, coming up pretty strong behind Gigante.
Yeah, look, I think that we can give that to Yates regardless of whether he's in any way related. For our purposes, he is. Dalton goes across the line there in a sneaky one to take the win. That was very well done. That was quite a late burst of speed. But this is the danger point where attacks might start to go off the top. Let's talk for a second about bikes, Anna, because I know you love geeking out on the bikes. From the way I see tonight, I would think that Aero is king, but sometimes you have a fancy take on it.
I think what I'm seeing, because I would say Aero is king too, I'd be going the dish wheel on the Specialized Venge S-Works. That's always my kind of go-to for these kind of courses. However, I am seeing a few Trons as well, and that gives me, I think, 2 reasons for that. One is they're not at the right Zwift level for the disc yet, which I think you have to be sort of late 30s for the most basic zip disc. and they've just climbed that 50,000 meters required for the Tron, but not quite at the right level. Or they believe that the Tron's rolling resistance, which we did geek out on a bit earlier, is perhaps a bit better than the disc wheel. So the Tron does have very good CRR ratings, the coefficient of rolling resistance. So potentially that's why people have picked it too. But I almost tend to go with the number one, that they're just not at the right level yet to have a disc.
Yeah, well, I mean, I certainly don't have a disc at my disposal yet, and I like to think that I Zwift quite a bit. So there isn't, you have, I think a lot of people have this understanding that the difference between level 1 and level 2 is the same as the distance between level 25 and level 26. But it certainly gets a lot harder to jump up levels the higher up you get. And so we still have some pretty experienced Zwifters who aren't necessarily on those high levels and don't have access to the gear. We saw it quite a lot actually last week in America West, Anna, where some of the riders who were just riding out of sight, and Dave Toll and I were getting quite excited thinking that we might be seeing some of the real talent of the World Tour in the future with some of the younger riders, but they were actually only level 18 or 19 Zwift. So they were relative newbies when it came to that, and therefore didn't have access to all the equipment. So we're back on the women now. They're heading out for lap 4 of 6, and they're still a pretty big bunch. In fact, this is a bigger bunch than what we usually see at this point in any of the races, with a few chasing behind as well. It seems to be, to me, like nobody's really that keen to be the one that does what is perhaps on this course. I'll put it out there, maybe a bit of a suicide attack, because it is a pretty tough course to stay away on.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give too much away because I have put some tactics out to the team to try tomorrow, but I think there's some pretty cool stuff that you could do on this course when you've got teammates in that front group, like we see there with Zed Sun, like we see with the TBR Smile On group. I will actually touch on it a little bit though, because it was in a little podcast I heard talking about the quick step strategies that they're potentially using in the Giro at the moment, and they call it the attacker defender strategy. So I'm sure you know all about this, Katie, but as I'm new to road cycling, I was like, that's quite interesting. So they'd have an attacker like Remco Evenepoel, who just goes and does crazy stuff, and people will chase him because, he's really good and could be a GC contender. And then they keep Almeida as the defender of the jersey, so making sure they just stay safe. So you could do that with this kind of a team. Maybe we see that here we've got a rider going off the front, they're the attacker, and then you've got someone just behind who isn't going to burn their matches because it's risky going as the attacker. You could easily burn too many and then drop off and kind of be a bit out of contention. But you could kind of run almost a 2-team strategy there when you've got enough riders in the front, like some of these teams do.
Yeah, it's a really good strategy. And like we were discussing earlier, that some of these teams are clearly kind of evolving as they go through this season and being willing to be a little bit braver. They're also really getting to know what all of their teammates' real capabilities and strengths are. So they've just hit this sprint now. Remember, only 150 metres, 10 to 15 seconds. So it's over nearly as fast as it begins. Liana from Zed Sun coming in second there behind Carolina Strasser, the TBR Smile On rider who was super zippy last week. We saw some great riding for her, and it looked like we also had Lucy coming over in third, Lucy Isdale. She might have come over in third or fourth. We'll have to wait to the breakdown. We'll see if we can get a replay and have a look at that. But TBR Smile On certainly going after quite aggressively after these sprints and doing a pretty good job. It almost seems as though Zed Sun are sprinting or TBR are sprinting, but this is the first one that we're really getting a mix of those numbers. So this will start to get quite interesting as they come down to the final laps. So again, they're on lap 4 of 6. So let's take a look at this replay. We've got Strasser in front in the distinctive green colours. Let's go back a little ways to see what happens here. Margot from Z Sun, we can see that she obviously moved up quite a lot there. But let's take a look. So it's good. How good is this technology, Anna, that we can kind of
That's
rewind it
amazing.
like this
Fantastic.
and
Our
break it
producer's
down
just
bit by
amazing.
bit? Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. There we go. So it looks like Strasser, like you said, first, Liana second, Bam Bames third. So where's the rest of the Z Sun? Willemine and Margot about 2 seconds back. So Liana went over second, but yeah, Zedson obviously didn't contest that as much. Maybe saving their legs now they're on the sort of nearing the penultimate lap, saving their legs for some spicy fireworks later. And you can see that immediately a steamroller dropped in that capacity that I talked about. Drop it to catch up if you have been dropped across that sprint. Great way to sort of put out not too much energy, but bridge that gap.
And what I thought was interesting, which we could see very clearly on that back and forth, so thank you, Nathan, our producer, for doing that for us, is how quickly those positions changed after the line, to the point that we were actually quite off in what we thought may have happened based on where they were sitting 10 metres after the line. So those who did sprint sat up fairly rapidly, and the ones who were building some speed, they caught very quickly. But, Anna, nobody really seems to have the appetite to go on the march today, which is something quite different to what we've seen in the last few weeks where it's been really aggressive. But once again, they're in quite a tight pack, quite a tight blob, and everybody's getting a little bit of recovery.
Yeah, you've got to say that fortune favours the brave, though. I'm always wanting to see some exciting stuff going on, some early attacks. I don't know if you watched the Giro today, but was it Taco who went off, had a huge attack, and then just was putting out the huge effort to have the bunch not catch him. Got there in the end, first stage win. So again, fortune favours the brave. Just go for it. What have you got to lose? Especially here, we're not on pro contracts. Well, I don't know any of these riders that are. Just, do some crazy stuff. If you've got 4 people from your team in the front group, just do something, because you're probably going to do pretty well at the end just with that many by sheer numbers. So you may as well have some fireworks, as we're seeing maybe a little bit of that with Scylla here from Dirt and Ernie pushing very quickly off the front. Interesting setup there, a sort of a deep dish combo. Looks like the Envies maybe, or the DT Swiss wheels. Another rider coming through from behind this AHDR Cruiser. So there's a tight battle there, dropping those steamrollers. We'll see if that makes a difference for Scylla, who just got dropped. A little bit too much of an early attack. Looks like AHDR right will be coming through as well. A pretty tight sprint here. No one's really opening up big time. That was an early time to drop those steamrollers as well. I would have thought potentially a bit more on the uphill, because we know that the drag is more uphill. So better to drop those steamrollers up the climb, but definitely not as much of an impact. You can just see there that dirt rider, looks like Sullivan, getting on the back, and he could be in for the win here, pushing pretty hard coming up to that sprint.
Yeah, the steamroller seems like a little bit of a doozy this evening. It feels like people aren't getting quite the impact that they want from it. Look, in saying that, we're seeing Sullivan off the front using it, but I think that's probably more a function of how good his legs are. And Wright, it has moved up very quickly to be on his wheel. Will he sit there? Will he try and jump around? But Dalton, he is moving quick. He's dropped that power up at just the perfect time. Anna, he's leaving it late to get over the top, but he'll do it easily. Wright will take out the sprint. Dalton, pardon me, will take out the sprint ahead of Sullivan and his teammate Wright. So Cruisers 1 and 3, very good job for them. And they're picking up some solid points. They're looking like the team to beat out here tonight.
Yeah, and it is close between AHDR and Dirt at the top of this category, the C category men here. So good to see AHDR come first and third, but then it looks like Dirt may have been second and fourth. So really tight battle between those two teams. Awesome to see. And so not seeing an amazing amount of tactics that I thought could have come from this men's field. We do see an attack off the front, though, as I say that, from a yellow jerseyed rider. Got a bit of a gap there. Looks like Is it Franz Jupe? No, it's Swan here from WP Taz. So not keeping the watts relatively high. We are in C category, remember, so we probably won't see sort of attacks off at 5 watts a kg, but so keeping the team back, 3 seconds back, but unfortunately they will catch him on the climb. So might have needed to attack a touch earlier, but I like this. I like people who sort of make this effort off the front. I don't think anyone will be chasing. They'll be just using the momentum, but good job here, Swan. Like it.
Well, like you said, fortune favours the brave. Swan is certainly on the march. A bit of a fashion watch for you, Anna. I'm not sure what you might think about Swan's outfit here. Of course, that is not the most important thing, and we urge him on his mission. But interesting get up. Although I just noticed that the Knicks do tie in with the jersey, so that's more civilised than perhaps I thought.
Yeah, I'm not loving it. There's a lot of matching though, which is
Here it
nice.
comes.
I didn't want to mention it before because I thought it was so great he was putting an attack off the front. But not my favorite, let's just say. I'm actually getting sent now pictures of people in their in real life kits asking how they look. He's dropping the steamroller there, which is just what I talked about earlier about could you drop it on this part of the course and get a little bit of a kick over the field. We'll see if that pans out. That's an interesting tactic. But yeah, I got sent yesterday a picture of someone in real life riding, asking if what I thought of their kit, and I marked them down because the color on the end of their shorts was a slightly different shade to the color of their socks. So yeah, they've gone back to the drawing board on that one.
Yeah, you are definitely a hard taskmaster. Do you have a stamp that you use, like a great effort, 7 out of 10 kind of thing? If not, I think we need to get you one of those. We've flicked back to the women now. They are heading out on lap now 5 of 6, so certainly what we would call the business end of the race. It's not emerging any one favourite in particular tonight. Anna, it's quite a bit of a different flavour than we've seen in the past, probably not unusual given the kind of course it is, but we're certainly seeing what I would call some more civilised powers through these sections, under 3 watts per kilo, sitting quite comfortably. In Richmond last week, a lot of the riders were averaging around 3.4, 3.5, which is a pretty big ask.
Yeah, I think like I think everyone's traumatized from last week, if I'm honest. It was really interesting seeing all the social media after the racing last week. It was yeah, absolutely brutal, probably is an understatement. So I think people look forward to this course and go, 6 laps of a almost flat course. Let's roll around a little bit and have a bit of fun. And they all know each other by now. So this front group, I mean, we've seen all their names before. And they'll just know sort of, okay, who's a really good sprinter? Whose wheel should I jump on? Looks like Margot's going, okay, I'll jump on her wheel. I won't let her get off for an attack. That's when you've got to pick a teammate almost who's a bit unknown and just send them off the front. And hopefully they'll be able to get away. I mean, that's something these teams could try if they've got a few sort of new riders in their team. They are approaching the sprint now, coming up on lap 5. So this is the penultimate sprint. So we might see some people really motivated to get some points. We are seeing Strasser again there from TBR Smile on going off the front. Margot, Z-Sun right on her wheel, though I haven't seen power-ups been dropped yet, so they're leaving them quite late if they do have them. Waterhouse also just coming up onto Margot's wheel. And one of the Bam Babes team, great to see them dropping an arrow quite early. That's a short power up, so you almost want to drop it a little bit later, just because they're all going to start running out now. But look, Z-Sun again, Margot opening up to 11 watts a kg. Liana right on her wheel. Willemine with the steamroller. That's 1, 2, 3 again from Z-Sun. Obviously targeted that one, relaxed on the last lap and just went for it on this one. And yeah, Margot. I mean, when Margot in a category B can sprint at over 11 watts a kg, not many people are going to be able to stay on that wheel.
No. I mean, so 10 or 15 seconds, because it sprints about 150 metres, so it's not too long. But often the timing of that power-up drop can make a massive impact. Not forgetting how difficult it often is, unless you have one of those fancy special power-up buttons. You've got one of those, don't you, Anna? Where you can hit the power-up from your handlebar. That's all
I
connected
can, but I
through.
do have the issue now that because I've turned my handlebars up so that it's more comfortable for riding, it's in a really, really awkward location. But yes, I do have one of those special power-up loaded in button things, which are really fun if anyone wants to use them. You can use them to do a whole bunch of things. You can change camera angles, tune into Discord. So yeah, quite a lot of fun, those little power-up buttons.
Yeah, well, I've noticed that with sweaty fingers sometimes, especially when you get out of your seat to sprint, which is the best way to do it. I think there's still a lot of people who feel very awkward accelerating on an indoor bike, so they're possibly not getting, really realizing their full potential in a sprint and their full power based on that, because of that uncomfortability. And it does feel different, certainly, from being on an outdoor bike. But if you have to somehow position your phone to hit the power up at exactly the right time and then be out of your seat and carry that momentum, there's a bit of a knack to it. Like you really need to have practiced it in some bunch rides prior to being out, because otherwise that timing can really make it or break it for you.
Yeah, I actually, on indoor sprinting, Katie, I did have a question for you around if you're in a sort of a big gear, so you put in a big gear, you're obviously going to accelerate a bit slower to get over the gear, but once you're over the gear and you're sort of in full acceleration, you're going to be faster because you're pushing a bigger gear. Do you do that, or do you do the lower gear, which you can accelerate and get over top of very quickly, so you probably have a better jump, but then once you're at speed, you're kind of maxed out a little bit, like you're not going to be able to push as much as someone in a bigger gear. So which is the sort of better
Yeah,
strategy there?
good question. The answer would really depend on the style of rider you are. So for a rider like me, I have quite a high max power, but I probably only have about a 5 to 7 second range where I can belt that out before it really starts to die off. So for me, I need to use that big gear and use my power to get on top of it, because then I'm moving at enough speed that I can then maintain that speed throughout, even if the power drops off a little bit. But if you're the kind of rider who can go for about 15 to 20 seconds, then that's a little bit of a different story, because you might not need that bigger gear to really get onto it. So full gas attack from Keith, he kind of did almost exactly what you were talking about, Anna, in terms of a slightly bigger gear and accelerating. He's got pretty low cadence. It's 74, 75 is not considered high at all. And he had a double power up there. So he had a double aero, which has really helped him maintain that speed, because, again, his cadence is quite low. So we're also noticing as the road tips up that he's not changing gear. We can see that because his watts are increasing a little as his cadence is dropping, Anna. So that indicates to me that he's got decent legs, because if you are on any kind of incline and you're out the front and you're choosing not to drop into an easier gear, you have a bit of faith that your legs can kind of muscle over the top. So let's see as he gets over the top here if that cadence can increase, because it is starting to drop below what I would call critical. Anything under about 60 revs is a bit of an issue, I think, for keeping it going, and indicates a fair bit of fatigue. So let's see if Keith can keep that rolling at all. But that double power-up attack, that was pretty solid, pretty nasty for the chasing bunch.
It is like, I was just thinking, like a double rainbow, the double power up. So if people don't understand what we're saying, it's not a sort of weird quirk of Zwift. He would have got an aero power up right before he went under the start finish banner. He would have hopped that right under that and then got another one. And he got there. The two dirt riders
that was
very quick behind.
A little bit too close for comfort.
Oh, that was getting very quick, and his RPMs were down so low. He was grinding it out. But great job, those dirt riders. They were gathering a huge amount of points. But yeah, so double power up. He would have got it just before the start finish, dropped it, and then would have seen another one come in and pretty much dropped it again. So that made it an aero power up that lasted 30 seconds, which is very, very unassailable, really, for those chasing. So great, a great job there. I haven't actually seen that done before. So I guess we don't really have often a sprint segment so close after a start-finish banner. So two banners very close together. Great use of a strategy there. If people are watching and wondering what to do in their races coming up, that was an A strategy for a little breakaway to get first across line points.
Yeah, that was a very good move, actually, to try and capitalize on the start finish line power up, and then also through that. Isn't it interesting, Anna, how people are really using the power ups as a part of their strategy? Because it's always a bit of a gamble. You then need to do all this scenario planning, and one of them includes if you get the aero power up, or if you get the van. What do you do? Because they're different. They're definitely different strategies. Now, these three, Anna, this is our first significant break of the day because they're working pretty well together, including the drop
They are.
of the power
I'm
up
liking
by
this.
Zwift. So that if you're dropping a power up in a breakaway, you'll want to make it stick. You're not just there for the party of it. So let's see if these guys can pull away any further. 4 seconds. What do you reckon? 15, Anna? 15 and they're safe?
They're looking all right. Like I think three out the front, four, now 5 seconds ahead is it getting to be? This could be a group that works well together. And I want to see them work. I love seeing a breakaway sort of come together, and they're pushing some very high, way higher than the group behind. They're pushing extremely high watts. So I think they could have this. It's gone up to 5 seconds now. They're going to come around the base and go through that sort of hilly component of the course where they go down into the tunnel and up again. So I think they're really gunning for this. I'm loving this. This is fantastic. Good little three-man group. I don't think any of them are from the same team. There's two yellow jerseys, but I don't think they're the same team jersey. And a pink rider there as well from Evo. Love the Evo riders. So these guys are working well together. 5 seconds still. They're sort of getting hung there. We've got a Keat we can see coming near the front of the group chasing, but they're still nowhere near the watts that this little chase has. So I like this. This is really, really good tactics here from those three riders at the front.
Well, I joined an Evo ride this week, and it was one of the best I've done, actually. They were a great group. So I'm a big fan of their community. We're back to the women now because, Anna, they're on their final lap. Hip, hip, hooray. They would be pretty happy with that. I think a couple of them, as you well mentioned, were a little bit scarred from last week. I'm sure Martin at WTRL got some interesting emails after that one, but good course choice, I reckon. But yes, they're on the final lap now. So now really they're just posturing for a sprint, because if they haven't done a lot until this point, and I think really the only thing that we can look out for that could be successful is probably a late break in the last kilometre to 2 kilometres where everybody's almost playing a little bit of cat and mouse.
Yeah, I do just want to double check because we are following the C men, and I believe they're only a 4 lap race. So that three-man breakaway that went off the front could have actually been a go for the win kind of a move. So we might just want to double check that, because I know that the C's and D's were riding a little bit shorter in this racing as opposed to the women, who are racing 6 laps. I did wonder that, just seeing that attack, that it's not really a attack you would do unless I think you're going for the final point. So we'll see potentially if we go back to that men's race, because they may now be coming around to the end of their race, if I am not incorrect. So we'll see if we can drop back there. But these women are coming up to their last sprint here, lap 6 sprint. So the A's and B's are doing 6 laps. The C's and D's 4 laps. So a little bit different here. Seeing All these power-ups been dropped, and we'll pop back to the men's to see if that breakaway has made it after these women have gone through this lap 6 sprint. Looks like Margot, again, off the front, just absolutely amazing. I'd say my rider of tonight in this women's race, just phenomenal sprint capability. Zed's going to be glad to have her on. Wonder if she might be heading up to the A's next season.
Oh, and she's about to complete her Masters of Physio, so she probably knows very well how to look after any niggling injuries that come along. Shout out for the combined effort for the borrowed trainer this evening. I think that we can get some extra credit for the owner of the trainer too. You definitely claim that, right? If somebody won a race or won some sprints on your bike, you'd or your equipment, you'd be saying it had something to do with it. All right, we're over with the fellas now. So in theory, they should only have 4 laps this evening. So they will be coming
that
not
is
too
teammates
far from the finish now.
They are 2 teammates here. They've got 1 kilometre to go. So Ruttersward here from MRR with Swan, I think, from the same team. Maybe Swan is just dropping off a little bit, though. We've got Franz Dupe here from Evo. He's in the pink. No, it looks like Swan is catching back up. Only 3 seconds back to the group behind. Keat, who we saw with that massive attack earlier, is pushing huge watts on the front. We're just wondering if they're going to get caught. Keat here has broken away from that group. Look at that. That is no longer Grupo Compacto. That is all split up on the road. This is so amazing to see who will come, I think, from this group of 3, unless Keat can bridge that gap. He hasn't brought the pack with him, which is very smart. He's riding for a different team, though, so he hasn't brought anyone with him. It's just maybe going to be these 4. Great finish to the men's C racing tonight. I really hope this breakaway makes it, because that, again, we've said it once, we've said it twice, fortune favours the brave. They came down that big hill. It got 2 seconds, 3 seconds over that group behind. Keat just on the wheel now. Now it's all about power-ups. Who has got the magic aero power-up?
Oh, the break is getting caught, but can a couple of people survive? Swan has hit out early, trying to hold off the chasers who are coming very fast behind him. Oh, and I think he will get hit on the line. Anna, you're right. Ruttersward just over the top. Swan, brilliant effort though. Shout out to you, because that was a very, very brave move and just perfect timing. He was very unlucky to not get that. We'll go and check that replay, because that was a little bit of a cracker.
Oh, wow.
That one.
But they
Anna, wowee.
Yeah, whether it was Swan or Rutterswald, they're both teammates. So great job there. That was amazing. They've come past that Evo rider. We see here Swan opening up, but you see Rutterswald must have come through incredibly fast. He's got a drafting power up, so he's just jumped into the draft there, accelerates at 13 watts a kg over Swan's 8. Look at that, over his teammate right on the line. That's a bike throw there, right? Oh, awesomely close. And you've got an AHDR rider right, just coming in 3rd. What a finish from Ruttersward. MRR team, fantastic. Man, one of the best finishes I've seen.
Yeah, that was a great finish, and teammates too. Ruttersward, great drop of the power up, very well timed. Used that draft power up to really accelerate when he didn't have a wheel to sit on. So I think that was very well timed by then as well. We're back over to the women now. So let's take a look and see what's happening here. Fairly big bunch. We've got about 12 riders that will come in for this sprint finish. So Anna, it looks like they will just be prepping for a bunch sprint here, rather than any of those breakaways that we saw in the men's.
And I've got to ask why. Why would the AHDR team here, who's in the purple, and also TBR in the green, not have tried to do something to get Margot out of this group, or to get away from it? Margot, hands down, she's sprinting at 11 watts a kg and over. She's massively going to have an advantage. So why would you still want her in the group? I mean, that's like dragging, give me a sprinter, Sam Bennett. Or what's the new sprinter that's Anna van der Breggen took to the line? Why would you
You're
want that person in your
right.
group. I just don't understand. You've got to do something. You've got to try and attack. Maybe we'll see something coming out of the tunnel. But right now, I mean, money's on Margot, right?
Yeah, it's an interesting discussion because it is quite a different seat where we're sitting, and we can look at it quite objectively and say, this is the best way to win. If you are up against someone like Margot, then you don't have a lot of chance of beating her. So what are you doing? Why aren't you even giving yourselves a shot to win? But in saying that, they may be TBR, for example, they've accrued a whole lot of points in the early sprints. And Lucy Isdale, if she's fresh and she has had the chance to recover a little bit here after that brilliant first sprint, and that could have been the fastest through segment based on how much she won by, she might be backing herself tonight because she's really been coming along as a sprinter. Not just the physicality of it, but also her bunch positioning. And she's also been trying out, we saw it last week and again this week, trying out different ways to sprint. So there's definitely that kind of consideration. And the other thing, they may be chatting on their comms, Anna, and all of them might be a little bit toast, sort of just hanging on and not feeling like a breakaway is something that they could really carry on. But there's quite a lot of jockeying going on with about a K to go. This is really going to come down to acceleration. If I was Lucy Isdale, I'd actually back it off, have a run at them and hit them at full pace already rather than sprinting from the front, because I think that will really suit her. But it looks like the teams should start getting organised because they do have each rider has a couple of teammates. So pick a sprinter. Let's do a little bit of a lead out and see, and may the best woman win. Margot's on the front early, Anna. I'm not sure about this one. It's a big lead out from her. I mean, she's got the legs to do it, but it's still very early to be on the front. And dummying a little bit too, jockeying all of them.
For sure. I mean, I think this is a perfect course for a lead out. And you're looking at the purple team there, although I think they're two different teams all come together. We are seeing some power ups being dropped now early. So this is 400 meters to go. We see TBR Smile on pushing off early with Strasser here with the drafting power up. Not a best use of it because she's not actually on anyone's draft. Look who's opening up. Margot, 12 watts a kg. Exactly. What did I say? She's going to come through and win. You've got Heidi behind her at 8.7. There's Aero power up, 12 watts a kg, gone burger. I mean, you needed to drop it earlier. Chapeau, Margot, fantastic work. But other strategies needed to happen there. You needed to get her out of the pack. I mean, she was going to win that. There was no chance for anyone else.
No, you're.
Am I being too harsh?
That was a pretty textbook. No, look, I think it was a pretty textbook sprint from her. Once she got out of the seat and accelerated with the good timing of that power up, that gap opened up so quickly. I was a little bit worried about her on the front when the others were kind of looking at her to be responsible for taking on that speed. But I think she's just too powerful. When she can hit 13 watts per kg, that's pretty difficult to beat no matter what. So very, very impressive ride from her. So let's take a look at this jump. She's 13.5 watts per kg. That is, I mean, look at how quick that gap opens up. That's it's not only timing, it's also horsepower. Heidi Hunt is the only one who's able to
shout out to Heidi.
Even match it a little bit.
Yeah, Heidi was dropping some great power numbers there. So shout out to Heidi as well. I mean, she gapped the rest of the field behind her too. Gosh, they look like Band Babes there had a little dropout on her. There it goes. And the rest of them all together. So I actually are good there with a second and third. Looks like Zed-san got really pushed out the back there. So, I mean, I'm being too harsh there, but maybe the strategy of the other teams was they had the numbers. It was like, let's just get up to the front as close as we can. But yeah, Margarita just, I would have thought, I mean, how else you beat a sprinter like that? I would have thought with some numbers in the pack would be some kind of an early attack, like we saw actually in the men's race when they had the 4 laps and that group went off early. The 3 of them managed to actually, with those 3, still do 1-2, have a sprint at the end. So yeah, maybe something to think about. That kind of a course, if you've got a sprinter in your midst, drop them. drop them somewhere.
Yeah, get rid of them. And if you can't get rid of them, you should die trying. I think that's kind of what Anna, the message I'm hearing from you tonight, Anna. I'm impressed with Margot. I mean, I think we should still call her rap name M. Dot because I think she earned it tonight with that pretty hardcore sprint, but obviously very motivated based on the effort she made to even be out there tonight. So that shows a lot. I'm also pretty proud of the TBR Smile On ladies because I think they gave it a bit of a crack with slightly different tactics. Didn't quite work for them in the end sprint, but they certainly accrued a lot of points along the way. So that was pretty impressive. In the men, that was the kind of finish we see at Milan San Remo where they just get across the line. You're not sure. You're cringing because you can see the bunch coming in the background. To that breakaway. But as you say, fortune favours the brave. It didn't quite work for Swan, but almost.
Oh, yeah, that was amazing. I loved seeing that. It's a little three-man breakaway, two teammates and another one sort of hanging on there. And yeah, that was fantastic. But yeah, I think as well in the women's racing, I mean, like you said, the TBR team, maybe AHDRL, they had some different tactics around points. So when we see the results come up, it'll be interesting to see just sort of what that looks like, because that may make me sort of ease off on my saying that there should have been some early attacks, because they could have had a strategy around those first across line points that we had across 6 laps. So, big points course. Yeah. So, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, and I think that that's something we do have to think about, that it's not only first across the line. We've got those intermediate sprint points because it's a points race, as well as the fastest through segment, and you can really hide in plain sight for those. Sometimes we've seen that go to riders that haven't even popped up much on screen at all because of the tactics they've used to do it. So we'll take a look at results when we can, but you can also head to WTRL.racing to really delve into it if that's what you want, Anna. But let's take a look here. Margot Jacquet, M. Dot, she is the real deal. Racing for Zed Sun, 3.4 watts per kg. She's efficient and just over an hour of racing, so great job there. Heidi Hunt has come in second for the Bombshells. Carol Welsh in third for the Bam Babes. Martin in fourth. Esdale and Lucy had a great opening sprint there, and great to see her finishing in fifth there. Coming in fifth. Hall in sixth. Carolina Strasser in seventh. Wilhelmine de Roo took eighth. Schleisinger in ninth, and Tess Waterhouse rounding out that top 10. Zed Sun, lots of Zed Sun in there. Anna, lots of TBR Smile On, lots of Bam Babes. I think this is going to be pretty tight to the end.
Definitely. And looking here at the C category, we had GL from the Rave C Oz in first. L San Diego from the Lac Lac teams in second. C Rice from the Crazy Cakes in third. Rave C Aussie, that was T Katie in fourth. M Lovegrove in fifth. E Lau in sixth. D Blegg in seventh. Geiger in eighth. Z Stolton in ninth. And 10th was F Medina.
Alrighty, let's take a look at these Ds. We've got Hawthorn taking the win ahead of Hirsch. Balla in third, Dowling in fourth, La Civita in fifth. So Rave D Oz taking 1, 2 and fifth there. Pretty dominant ride by them. We've got Matthewson from the Daiquiris in sixth, Drew from Rave in seventh, and Wacker from Rave in eighth. So they have had a brilliant night out on course. For the Diamonds, we've got Lindsay in ninth, and for the Daiquiris, we've got Chung coming in 10th there. All right, we're just waiting a little bit to get those men's results in. Anna, they're just getting finalised. I mean, that's what happens when you get a photo finish, right? You've got to go back and analyse that. And I tell you what, for the amount of nerding out you like to do with your whiteboard, you should delve into the science behind the photo finishes and the photo finish cameras. I actually think that Zwift is far more accurate than in the real world for that happening. All right, the men's results are in, so let's take a look at what happened there. It was certainly a very exciting finish in the end with that Breakaway being brought back. But let's take a look at the A's. I'll throw this to you, Anna.
Look at that. Bevan, who we know from APAC Elite, one of the best sprinters on Zwift, took it out. Not surprising there. A. Coles from Eat Dirt Aces in second. D. Pachero from APAC Elite. Look at that. First and third. B. Hill from Aero in fourth. And H. Moore from Aero in fifth. So that's looking good for them. Wilkie from Wes Sharks in sixth. L. White from Aero. Very good. In seventh. A. Kubo from ZWC Blast in eighth. AB from Evo Savages in ninth. And Campagnoni from APAC Elite in 10th. Not sure where Sam Lindsay was, but there we go. That was a top 10 in the men's A.
But, oh, look, your Kiwi boy will be somewhere, I promise, Anna. The Bs are still out on course because they are warriors that have to race a little bit longer, 6 laps for them. So 4 laps for the Div C. What a sprint that was in the end. Gustav Ruttersward took it out ahead of Will Swan. Hamish Wright in third. Sullivan sitting in fourth there. Jonathan Brook, he came in fifth. MRRC had a good day, didn't they? Goodness me, first and second.
Yeah.
All right, in sixth, we have got Tucker from Evo. In seventh, we have Yates. Do you reckon it's
Simon
Sean
Yates?
Steve Yates it is. Simon Yates. Well, look, you know, Steve, if you can change your name to Simon, then we'll recognise you quickly. In eighth, and a big animator of the day was Andy Keat. In ninth, we've got Mardosa, and rounding out the top 10, we've got Gifford. Ninth and 10th, I have to have a shout out for their team name, Anna. Dirt Nerney. That's a pretty good one.
That's fantastic.
That's a pretty good one.
That's good. I like that one.
All right, what happened
and
in the
looking
Ds?
at the D
Let's
division,
take a look.
In the Ds, we've got A. Lawson from Zero Dark Dirty. Took it out over S. Bamford. That's a really close finish. That was even closer than the C's from the drafters. Then you've got another Yates. I wonder if it's the brother of the one in the C's. WMZ Dodgers.
Twin brother, yes.
Yes, twin brothers, yep. S. Macon from the drafters, and Westhind from the drafters as well, and Hussey also from the drafters. So 4, 5, 6 from the drafters. Hidalgo from Delta. Gassert from Zero Dark Dirty with his teammate Sexton right behind, and then Roberts from Herd of Nimble Numbats. Have we heard of that herd before? In 10th.
I'm not sure. I like the Nimble Numbats. I mean, it's a bit of a tongue twister, but I think a Numbat is a little bit like a Bilby from memory. I might have to look that up though. But I like the herds. So the Bees are just coming across the line now. Good on you, fellas. Stewart took the win there in what looks like a pretty tight finish there ahead of course. So a win for the Blowflies. The Mercenaries sitting in second, and those guys are still coming in. So it looks like it must have been a breakaway with a tight sprint, given that those other results haven't dribbled in yet. But if you head to WTRL.racing, then you can really dive into it and see how everything's going, Anna, not just from tonight, but from some of the other leagues as well. Let me just ask one question before I bid you adieu. Your whiteboard this week is absolutely chock full of delightfully interesting things like the coefficient of rolling resistance. Is there anything you've learnt tonight that you might scrub out on that whiteboard and perhaps change one of your previous thoughts?
I'm just going to give myself a shout out, is that I think I got that rolling resistance bang on. I think that steamroller is not as powerful as when it's on the dirt, and I'm not ashamed to say I'm pretty proud of myself. The whiteboarding worked out. Often it doesn't, but I'm proud of this one. The research paid off. My husband wondered what I was doing with all these equations up there, but there we go. It paid off, I think. The work paid off.
Yeah, well, you'll have to head out of the dungeon after this evening's broadcast and go give him a high five if he's still awake. Tell him how wonderful you went tonight. But thank you, Anna. Your genius whiteboarding and incredible knowledge is very interesting, and I will likely look at those numbers that you reeled out while I'm doing the broadcast tomorrow with Dave Toll, and I'll try and explain them to him and he will probably just really be wanting you to be there with him. So we'll see how we go, though. Thank you very much for this evening. We will be back same time, same place next week. We are heading into the final couple of weeks of this season, but don't panic. They're busily planning the seasons to come, so we won't run out of racing to have Anna get to bed. You've got the EMEA coming up, which is in all hours of the morning in New Zealand, and we'll see you next week.